tree tier list, and I'm starting off with a pretty basic tree, an oak tree. The reason I'm calling it a basic tree is because it's pretty much the first thing that I think of when I think of any kind of tree. Also, it was the first tree added to Minecraft, and I mean, if it's gonna be the very first tree added to a game, that kinda goes to show how generic of a tree an oak tree is. It's kinda just the tree. Like, oak trees are just the epitome of tree. For good reason, though. I mean, it's strong, it's sturdy, its wood is commonly used in a bunch of different things. It's only got 3 letters in its name, so it's pretty easy to remember. It's a good option to put a swing onto, and on top of that, it's got acorns, which, I mean, who doesn't love acorns? With all that being said, I'm probably gonna have to say A tier. The next tree I'm gonna be rating is the birch tree. And I'm specifically talking about these birch trees, these ones that are kind of skinny, and you sometimes see in forests, like, every now and then. What I like about these is that they kind of stand out from the other trees in the forest. Because, you know, for one thing, they're white, which is pretty uncommon amongst trees, and they also got those black marks all along them, and I really like that about them. You could kind of think of them as being like the sprinkles on a cake, except in this case, they're trees in a forest. But, you know, the sprinkles on a cake kind of make the cake look a little bit better, and to me, the birch trees in a forest just make it a little bit more interesting. Besides that, though, there's nothing I really like about birch trees other than their appearance. I mean, they're just too skinny, so there's nothing you could really do with them. You could barely even climb them. Because of that, I'm gonna have to put them in B tier. Next, I'm gonna be rating the dawn redwood tree, not to be confused with the giant redwood tree, which is a lot bigger than the dawn redwood tree. Still though, dawn redwoods are pretty big when compared to some other types of trees. So why does any of this matter? Well, I just really like to climb trees that are easy to climb and also relatively tall, and dawn redwood trees hit both of those requirements. As you saw in the previous image, they can reach heights of up to 100 feet tall, which to me definitely meets the requirements of being a tall tree. More importantly though, this thing has a bunch of branches, and they're each the perfect distance apart and the perfect width for climbing on. These guys are so good for climbing that you might as well be climbing a ladder when you're climbing one of these trees. Because of that, whenever I'm climbing one of these, I can easily reach like 30 feet high with no risk. And the icing on the cake about this tree is, it never has any sap. So unlike pine trees, whenever you're climbing this thing, you're not going to get your hands all sticky. This tree is such an easy S tier. The next tree on the list is the palm tree. And hot take, guys, but palm trees are mid. I'm obviously not talking about the ones that grow coconuts on them because, I mean, coconuts are alright. But I'm talking about the ones that just have nothing on them. Cause like, it is literally just a stick with some leaves on top. And you cannot tell me otherwise. I mean, it doesn't even have a single branch. I remember a year ago when I went to Florida and saw a palm tree for the first time in my life. I was kind of excited because, you know, it looks different from the trees that I'm used to. But after like a day of being there, I was like, okay, these trees are just not that great. The only thing that's really saving the palm trees right now is their leaves, which I'll admit are pretty cool. I mean, it's just a giant leaf, which is bound to be a little bit interesting. But other than that, though, the tree just really isn't treeing. It's got no branches, so you can't climb it. Its leaves are only directly on top of the tree, and also, its roots never really poke out of the ground, at least from what I saw. So I'm probably gonna have to say C tier. Palm trees are just really weird. The next tree I'm gonna be rating is bamboo. Now, technically speaking, bamboo isn't a tree, but honestly, I don't care. I mean, it's got leaves, it's just as strong, if not stronger, than wood, and it's pretty tall. So in my book, it's basically a tree. I know I said that I didn't like palm trees because they don't have any branches, and I know that bamboo doesn't have any branches either, but I feel like bamboo's kind of exempt from that rule, because bamboo kind of just is the branch. Like, the entire thing is just a branch. And that's kind of what I like about it. Whenever you're in a bamboo forest, it's like you're wandering around in a forest that's made out of branches, and they're so close together, so you gotta like weave in and out of them and stuff. Another thing I like to do with bamboo is, whenever it falls down, I like to just pick up the entire thing and carry it around. I don't know why, but just something about carrying around a 20-foot long stick is entertaining to me. With all that being said, bamboo's just a really unique and entertaining tree. So I'm gonna say that it belongs in A tier. The next tree I'm going to be rating is the walnut tree. Walnut trees are kind of like oak trees, except instead of dropping acorns, they drop big green balls that apparently have a walnut inside. The balls are kind of fun to pick up and throw at things, but I have 3 main issues with them. For number 1, most of them are rotten, like this guy right here. For number 2, they get your hands all sticky and covered in sap whenever you touch them. And for number 3, they smell disgusting. Other than that though, walnut trees are just a generic tree, but because of the walnuts they drop, I'm gonna have to put them in C tier. The next tree I'm rating is the maple tree. Maple trees are just so goated. I mean, they make maple syrup. And me personally, I really like maple syrup. I think it tastes pretty good. They also got those helicopter leaves that spin around slowly to the ground. And their leaves are a really beautiful shade of red. And I think both of these things are a really nice touch. You know the tree is good when the second largest country in the world uses its leaf to represent them. With all that being said, it's a really easy S tier for maple trees. The next tree I'm ranking is a dead tree, which isn't necessarily a type of tree, but I had to include it on the list. There's not much you could really do with the dead tree considering, it's dead. I guess you could try and climb it, but I wouldn't really recommend that because there's always that chance that it breaks under your weight. What I do like about dead trees is when they're just sitting in the middle of a field. I don't know why, but it just looks really cool. Dead trees are kind of like decorations, similar to birch trees, so I guess I'll put them in B tier with them. The next tree is a pine tree. Not just any old pine tree though, because pine trees are too diverse to just fit into one category, specifically the ones that look like the ones in this picture. These types of pine trees are really similar to the redwood trees that I mentioned earlier in the video. They both have a lot of branches, they're both good for climbing on, and they're both pretty tall. The only difference is, pine trees have a lot of sap. And I hate sap. I hate how it gets stuck to your fingers. I hate how it looks. I hate how it just drips from trees onto things. I hate everything about sap. Pine trees do have a little redeeming quality though. They have pine needles. And for some reason, I like the taste of pine needles. Call me weird, but they taste good. And also, they look pretty cool too. All that being said though, pine trees still aren't as good as redwood trees, so I'm gonna have to put them in A tier. The next tree I'm ranking is the cherry blossom tree, which kind of has a deceiving name because usually they don't even grow cherries, but if they do, they're usually too sour and small. I was really disappointed when I first found out that cherry blossoms don't grow cherries on them. Other than that though, cherry blossom trees are just really cool. When they bloom, they're like a giant pink flower, and they make the ambience of an area like a park so much better. And because of that, cherry blossoms are an easy A tier. Now it's time for me to rank little trees. These ones are kind of like dead trees because they're not actually a type of tree, but I had to include them on the list because I hate little trees. Although I'm not talking about every kind of small tree. I'm just talking about the ones that I showed in the image because they just don't look that great. Sure, there's a lot of small trees that look good, but these ones in particular just don't. Whenever I see them planted outside of a building or something, it just fills me with an unexplainable rage. Like I just want to rip it out of the ground. I guess it's because something like a bush or flowers or a rose bush would just look better. I think my hate for these small trees started when my old middle school decided to just leave a bunch of little trees in bags full of dirt. And they're still there to this day. All in like a 20 by 20 foot square, making like a little forest of semi-dead baby trees. So this might be really biased, but honestly, I don't care. I'm putting them in D tier. Now it's time for the last tree that I'm going to be ranking in today's video. The willow tree. I love willow trees. It's like if a tree just grew thousands of whips on its branches. I always pick the vines off of these because then I get to go like,
get back to work! I said get back to work, blood!
But other than that though, they're just really cool. I mean, take a look at these pictures. Yeah, willow trees are definitely getting an S tier. So this is the finished list. Little trees are in D tier, palm trees and walnut trees are in C tier, birch trees and dead trees are in B tier, oak trees, bamboo, pine trees, and cherry blossom trees are in A tier, and dawn redwood trees, maple trees, and willow trees are all in S tier. I think this list is pretty solid, but let me know what you think in the comments. Well, that's all I really have for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please make sure to like and subscribe. It helps out the channel a ton. And also join the Discord server using the link in my channel's description. But on that note, I'm out. Peace.